Hello and welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja Divedi, and in this segment today, we are going to discuss about the Indo-China border disengagement plan. This topic is important from the perspective of prelims and also very important from the perspective of GS Mains Paper 1 and 2. So let's begin with the topics of discussion that we are going to look at. First of all, we will talk about why news. Then we will talk about the background, what has happened along the 9 months. We will also talk about the disengagement plan. We will talk about the challenges to the disengagement plan, the way forward, and in the last of the segment, I'm going to offer you a mains-based question for answer writing practice. So let's begin with why in news. So, after so many talks at so many levels, at the 9th Indo-China Commander Corps level, this particular thing has been finalized, the disengagement plan at the border, where Indo and China dispute has been going on since so many months, 9 months precisely. So it has been finalized that simultaneous movement from the north and south bank of the Pangong Tso Lake of the military, the artillery and tanks will occur. So if we talk about the day, the last meeting, January 24th, and this name is very important if you are going to give your PCS exam, Lieutenant General Menon. Alright, so remember this. So at this particular meeting, it was finalized that from 10th of February, the disengagement procedure will begin. 9 months long standoff will finally, if not come to an end, at least it will de-escalate. So let's talk about the different meetings that has happened. So if you can see on June 6, Indian side led by Lieutenant General Harinder Singh, and these many talks have happened, and you can see if we talk about between ministers, there were 2 meetings at Moscow on September 4th and 10th. Remember this. Alright. So if we talk about the recent background says that what happened in May and June 2020. We will talk from that onwards. So background says that Indian and Chinese troops scuffled at Pangong Tso in Ladakh on 5th and 6th May. So it all started happening when the Chinese side, the People's Liberation Army of China, moved in 8 kilometers deep into what is perceived by India as a transgression because of the perceiving of the LAC of India and China. It's different. So what happened? The Chinese troops went 8 kilometers deep inside the perceived level of LAC by India. And that is why after that scuffles started to happen at Galwan and even Pangong Tso Lake. And after the first round of talks on 6 June 2020, clashes occurred in Galwan Valley, where 20 Indian soldiers have been reported to be killed and undeclared number of Chinese personnel were also killed. And after that, there had been no instance of firing on LAC since 1975. And you have to remember this, that transgressions do happen, but there was no instance of firing since 1975, and Indo-China war happened in 1962. And that is when, in 1962 only, the Chinese army illegally occupied the East Ladakh region of India, the Aksai Chin. Alright, and Chinese troops, we have already talked about getting these army getting into the LAC of India, and the different parts have been named as Gogra Post at Patrolling Point 17A. You have to remember all these names, and definitely you will see them on map, it's better. Hot Springs near Patrolling Point 15, both of which are close to each other. And Patrolling Point 14 in Galwan Valley. Now Galwan Valley is very important when it comes to the Chushul approach. And Galwan Valley and Pangong Tso Lake have been at the heart of the entire dispute, you have to remember that. And scuffles started to happen here only. Alright, and if we talk about Depsang Plains, they also transgress near the Depsang Plains, and which is very close to the Daulat Begoldi road. And if we talk about Depsang Plains, this was not even mentioned during the talks. Alright. And if we talk about India's response after that, India did respond very immediately. If we talk about military approach, India started moving its troop along the area. India also started getting fighter planes, Russian fighter jets, and also war planes over that area, and also started to strengthening its infrastructure. When it comes to economic offensive, what did happen? Because of the ban on the Chinese apps, because of lack of trade with China during the entire 2019 and 20, of course, because of the COVID-19 pandemic and of course the transgression by the Chinese side, the trade deficit became approximately $48 billion with China. So you can see how much India had been dependent on China when it comes to its trade. Also, if we talk about foreign direct investment, it also plummeted, and India also actually took care of the FDI norms for countries who are sharing the land borders with India. It tightened the FDI norms and said whatever FDI would come through any country which shares borders with India will go through the government approval route. So that also costed China a lot. And if we talk about China's reaction, what was China's reaction? China's reaction was that the app ban, approximately more than 60 apps were banned. And because of that, China said that this is a deliberate interference in practical cooperation. That means China was not happy with it. And not only India raised its military and economic offensive, China also did the same. Both the countries did the same. And if we talk about the heightened tensions, approximately 50,000 troops have been built over the borders with Indochina wherever the problems were happening, wherever the disputes were happening. So if we talk about Pangong Tso, only this region will see a disengagement as of now. Other regions have also been tensed, but they are not seeing any kind of disengagement. That will happen at a later stage. So if we talk about the LAC, LOC is different from LAC because LOC is agreed upon by both India and Pakistan, but LAC is not. LAC is just a concept, and India perceives LAC as being 3,488 kilometers long. But what does China say? China says that it is just 2,000 kilometers long. So if we talk about the sectors, the sector entire LAC is divided into three parts: the eastern, the western, and the middle. So if we talk about the eastern part, it has Arunachal Pradesh and China as its part. If we talk about the middle part, it has Uttarakhand as its part. And if we talk about western, it's Ladakh. Alright, so if we talk about the middle part, along with Uttarakhand, there is one more state that is considered as a part of middle part. You have to tell me in the comment segment which state is that. So if we talk about the eastern part, it actually coincides with the McMahon line of 1914. And if we talk about the middle region, it is the least disputed region, least disputed for region. And if we talk about the western region, this is the most disputed part. You have to keep that in mind. Alright, and it also has the largest border length. The disputed part is this part is the largest. Alright, so 23 disputed and sensitive areas have been seen along this entire LAC. And because there is a lack of demarcation both on paper and on ground, transgression have happened in the past and transgression will also happen in the future if both the countries do not resolve this entire dispute bilaterally. Alright, so if we talk about this region, you can see this particular region. This is the Pangong Tso Lake. Now, Pangong Tso Lake is a long, narrow, deep and endorheic lake. Endorheic lake means this is landlocked in nature, and it is at the heart of the Chushul approach. Chushul approach is the approach if any country will have its stronghold here, it will be able to raise an offensive against the other country, the enemy country. And here lies the fingers. Now, if we talk about the fingers, you have, first of all, just see this area, this Pangong Tso Lake, it lies in Ladakh Himalayas at 13,000 feet. The height is that. And if we talk about the fingers lie at the north of the Pangong Tso Lake. Alright, and here is the Galwan Valley. You can see where is the Galwan Valley. And moving on, let's talk about the fingers. Now, the fingers lie at the north of the Pangong Tso Lake. And if we talk about the perceived LAC, what does India say? India say that LAC is up to the, these are fingers are different ranges of the Sirijap range. They are different cliffs of the Sirijap range. Okay, keep this in mind. Sirijap. And India says that the LAC lies up to fingers 8. But India actually controls the region up to fingers 4. The base is here. Alright. And what does China say? China says that LAC is up to fingers 3. But it actually holds, in physical sense, it holds the postal fingers 8. So this is the entire problem. The entire problem is the lack of consensus when it comes to LAC. And as of now, it has been decided that from fingers 3 to fingers 8, there will be no patrolling by either of the countries. Keep this in mind temporarily. Alright, moving on, let's talk about the entire disengagement. What is the entire plan? So if we talk about the entire disengagement plan, Rajnath Singh, the defense minister, has said that it will happen in a synchronized and organized manner. That means both India and China will disengage in a synchronized manner. It wouldn't be that India will disengage first, then China will stay there and China will disengage at a later stage. It will not happen like that. It will be in a cooperated, coordinated and verified manner. And also, it says after 48 hours, within 48 hours, beg your pardon, of complete disengagement from Pangong Lake, senior commander levels talks should be held and the remaining issues should be resolved. Now, at the beginning of the segment only, I told you that as of now, because there are different other regions which have been occupied by either China or India to be ready to launch an offensive against each other. So, right now we will only talk about the Pangong Tso Lake, what has been said by both the countries. But they are also saying that as soon as the disengagement happens within 48 hours, other issues must also be resolved because this is a very positive time period. Alright, and troops from both of the sides have started disengaging from Pangong Tso area in eastern Ladakh. The process has started with the pulling back of certain columns of tanks from the South Bank region by both the sides, and at the moment there is no pullback of troops from the friction points and the heights they are positioned on. And China will pull its troop to the North Bank towards the east of Finger 8. See here. To the North Bank, east of Finger 8. It has been agreed upon, right? And what does it say? That it also says that similarly, India will also position its forces at its permanent base at Dhansing Thapa post near Finger 3. So here is Finger 3. Now, this is the traditional post of India. So it says that India will not come further than this area. Alright. Moving on, it also says that similar actions will be taken by both the parties in South Bank area as well, because North and South, they have been occupied, both have been occupied, and construction, whatever construction has happened after April 2020 will be also removed. Now, this means that whatever India was asking to China, from China, that whatever the status is right now, India and China should bilaterally try to make the status quo possible, which was a status quo before April 2020, before the Galwan clashes. So that is the entire agreement. Now, why this area is important? Here clashes have marked the beginning of the standoff. It is one of the areas where Chinese troops have come around 8 km deep west of India's perception of LAC, and Further, it is in the south bank of the lake that Indian forces in an action in late August had gained strategic advantage. Now, what has happened? In the south bank, south region of Pangong Tso Lake, many ranges are there, many hills are there, many gaps are there. So what did Indian Army do? Indian Army positioned themselves at a place from where they can launch an offensive. So this has given a strategic advantage to India that during this entire period, they have been seeing the Moldo garrison of China. Right? Because of this, the position of the Indian Army in these different regions, this has been made possible. That China was a little tied up. So, heights of Magar Hill, Mukhpari, Gurung Hill, Rezangla, Reshinla, these were occupied by either side earlier. And domination of the Spangur Gap, which is a 2-kilometer wide valley that can be used to launch an offensive. Now, Spangur Gap was occupied by China during the war of 1962. And this is the reason that India learned from this war and India dominated the Spangur Gap. And that is the reason why what happened, that China was tied up. China was tied up because of its own strategy that it followed during the 1962 war. After this action, India has also repositioned its troop on the north bank. And if we talk about why this entire disengagement procedure took so long. First, China wanted India to go away from the south bank of Pangong Tso region. But India said that if we are talking about disengagement, it should be happening in a synchronized and verified manner. That means India wanted to know that China is also going to disengage, not only India is going to disengage. And India also said that if we are disengaging, let's disengage bilaterally from all the regions, the entire region of Ladakh and not only one region. Alright, and India also said that LAC should be accepted and respected by both the parties. Now the problem lies here only. What is the LAC? Why? And why does it need to be resolved? First, we need to know how much the LAC is, from where to where does it lie. If and unless this is not on paper and on ground, this will continue to happen, the transgression will continue to happen. Neither party should attempt to change the status quo unilaterally, and all agreements should be fully adhered to by both the parties. And if we talk about the north and the south bank, you can see this region of Pangong Tso Lake. This is the north bank and this is the south bank and this is the Chushul approach, right? Just Chushul approach. And you can see here the Spangur Gap lies. These are the different passes you can see. Moving on, let's talk about one course which is available at Drishti IAS. This course will give you an integrated approach for both prelims and mains, and this is available in the pen drive format. So, it's available both in English and in Hindi. If you want to know more about it, you can call on the given number. Alright, moving on to the challenges. The first challenge that we are going to talk about here is the lack of trust. Both the countries do not trust each other. They're filled with suspicion. They're filled with suspicion because of the wars they have been a part of, especially from the perspective of India. China has been committing grave crimes when it comes to transgressions in the past, and that is the reason India does not trust China. And same is the problem with China does not at all trust India. Now, why doesn't it trust India? Because first of all, China is little intimidated by India. Reason is that it is a growing superpower, and it is if we talk about its inclination towards the other superpowers such as USA, Israel, it's a lot. And India is also a friend of Russia. So that is another reason that it's filled with suspicion. That is why it was asking that neither of the countries were ready to remove their tanks and artilleries and troops. This is the first reason. There is no clarity of intent. What does China want from India? Apart from being an aggressive transgressor and an expansionist, there is a lack of any consensus building, what do each other want from each other. So if we talk about that, there is lack of clarity on any sort of intent. Both the countries are very anticipatory when it comes to what will be their next step. So that is another problem. And disagreement on LAC. This could only and only be achieved through bilateral and diplomatic channels, because India is not a country which will give away its territory that easily. It does not want to be seen. And why should it? It should not be seen as a weak country, especially in Asia, when India is an unparalleled champion of the third world countries and the developing countries. So it's not about a piece of land. It's actually about the entire sovereignty, the self-respect of a country. So that is another problem, that LAC should be talked about as much as possible. And between both the countries, this could only happen when China also comes forward for it. So we need to understand LAC first. Alright. And now if we talk about the way forward, first is disengagement of troops. Now if we talk about, is this really over? No, it's not over. First is that it's not at all over. These kind of transgressions will happen time and again. But disengagement of troops may not end it, but it may open wide the channels which were blocked because of the troops building. Also, confidence building measures should happen. And this confidence building measure should not only happen through track 1 diplomacy, but also people to people contact, army to army contact in a friendly way. That means joint exercise. And in the comment segment, please tell me one joint exercise that is undertaken bilaterally by India and China. Alright. And continue track 1 diplomacy. Diplomacy should never be blocked, because once the channel of talking is blocked, both the countries will become desperate for some kind of action. And if they become desperate, they may try to get that action through some kind of undiplomatic means. So that is another way forward. We should always continue track 1 diplomacy, and dedicated wing to LAC is very important right now, especially when it comes to dedicating attention to China. We need to have a separate department that needs to deal with such transgression, and it could comprise of intersectoral ministers as well as personnel. So there should be a dedicated wing to LAC in the Ministry of Home Affairs. So if we talk about one main spaced question, here it is for practice. It says, pay attention. Discuss how the border dispute with China is posing a major test to the Indo-China bilateral relations. List down the efforts taken by both countries in this regard and their consequences. Alright, so I hope you found this segment informative. That's it for today. Tomorrow we shall meet again with another segment. Until then, stay updated. Thank you so much for watching.